What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at all 47 brawlers in the current meta. So we're going to be ranking these from the very worst all the way to the very best. So make sure you're sticking around until the end, because this is going to be a long one and put a lot of time into making this one. So I'd appreciate it if you subscribed if you haven't already, and smack a like on the video as well. So before we get into today's video, make sure you're using creator code MOM will be greatly appreciated. And also on my second channel, I will be doing a pin pack video over on there, so make sure to check that out as well. But yeah, so without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So starting off the list at number 47, we have Primo, and he's been one of the worst brawlers in the game for such a long time now, as he hasn't received any buffs for so long. Although he's one of the best brawlers inside of a showdown, he is absolutely terrible in 3v3 modes, and he's never really seen in competitive at all, and it's only seen in the meta when tanks are meta. So next up at number 46, we have Shelly, and although she's received some good buffs recently to both star powers and her gadget, Shelly still remains as one of the weakest brawlers in the meta. So there's so many better tank counters in the meta right now, and her basic mechanics just limit her a lot, and the only way she's going to become meta again is if Band-Aid becomes OP. So next up at number 45, we have Bull, and Bull hasn't been good in the meta for a long time now, and there's not been any good maps for him for such a long time as well. He really needs those maps to suit him, as I say, constantly, especially maps like Pit Stop. They need to return back for him to be good. Most tanks just pair so much better with a Poco as well, rather than a Bull, and he's only really good in Heist right now, and even in Heist there's so many better options. So next up at number 44, we have Aegon. Although Aegon kills insanely fast, his playstyle just really doesn't suit 3v3 at the moment. The main struggle with Aegon is that he doesn't cycle his super that well. Even when you jump on a high HP brawler, you can't really guarantee yourself getting that super back. So his short range and his low HP makes it extremely hard to be viable in competitive. So coming in at number 43, we have Penny, and she's a very high picked brawler at the lower levels, but she's never seen in competitive currently in this meta. Her slow reload speed and low damage really leaves her in a tough spot, because her super is really good. It's by far her best asset, but it can easily get taken down against the higher skill cap players. So next up at number 42, we have Bo, and another brawler which is picked a lot at the lower levels, but he remains a really weak brawler. Ever since his totem got nerfed, his viability in bounty worsened, and he's now only really good on Snake Prairie. His mines are just too easy to avoid, and often it just leads to him being overwhelmed really easily. So coming in at number 41, we have Leon. Leon thrives in showdown meta, but unfortunately just doesn't have much viability in competitive. And although Leon can be really frustrating to play against, he's easy to counter by clumping up with your teammates or just saving ammo. So as I said, really easy to counter. His best mode is gem grab, and hopefully with a good second gadget, we can see him be strong in the meta. So coming in at number 40, we have Gale, and Gale has been weak in the meta for such a long time now. Although he has a nice niche in the hot zone meta, he can be really good counter to tanks and brawlers like Mortis with his super ability and his stun. But his main weakness is the 1v1 interactions. It's not often in competitive he's actually going to win a 1v1 interaction, and that's going to be the main reason why he's not the best. So coming in at number 39, we have Dinah, and Dinah's seen a little bit more love with the last set of balance changes. It saw him rise a bit in popularity in the Siege meta. I still think it wasn't the right buff for Dynamite, as it hasn't actually made him that much better. At first I thought he was going to be really good, but as time has gone on, much hasn't really changed, and Dinah just gets countered way too easily. So coming in at number 38, we have Brock, and Brock received a nice buff to his damage with the last set of balance changes. However, this hasn't seen him increase in viability that much. With so much max in the meta, his shots are just so much easier to actually dodge than other sharpshooters, making it really hard for him to actually be viable. He's also really squishy still. I'd like to see him get a health buff in the future. His best mode is going to be Heist, where we're seeing a bit more usage out of him, but still there's just better options in the meta. So coming in at number 37, we have Mr. Pierre, and this is really strange because Mr. Pierre has always been a top 10 brawler in the meta, but ever since he got several nerfs a couple of months ago, he just really isn't the best in this meta. He gets countered way too easily, especially by the fast-paced meta, and just doesn't counter too many brawlers right now, and not used at all in competitive right now. I don't think there's ever a time I've actually seen him, and it's a nice change because, as I said before, he's always a top 10 brawler, and it can be pretty toxic. So next up at number 36, we have Jackie, and Jackie isn't in the best place right now, as she's rarely seen in the competitive pool. Only really played on Brubble when paired with the likes of Poco, as she doesn't really seem to win her lane that often at the moment, and she's just okay in most maps and modes. So coming in at number 35, we have Daryl, and he hasn't really got a mode that he completely excels in, but he's pretty versatile in his use. But when he's seen often, it's in Brawl with a Poco. He's a good tank hybrid, as he can often kill the control / tank counters with his super and knockback, and always seen to be underrated in the meta, but kind of hard to consistently get value with. So coming in at number 34, we have Nita. I'd say Nita is in a pretty balanced place right now. However, she's slowly starting to see her viability decrease, as she's only good in Brawl right now. She's a good hybrid brawler, as she counters both tanks with her bear, but also counters the really squishy control brawlers. So overall, Nita is pretty balanced. So next up at number 33, we have Rico. And Rico is again a very balanced brawler in this meta. He never really gets any kind of buffs or changes. With the balance changes, he's just fairly decent. So he's really good on maps like Hot Potato, Hard Rock Mine, Split. He can be fairly usable on maps with a lot of walls as well, and just overall a pretty fairly balanced brawler. So next up, coming in at number 32, we have Frank, and I swear with every single balance change, Frank seems to get a HP buff, but he's a really good place in the meta right now. He's one of the best tanks in the game, especially when paired with a healer. He's really good in game modes like Brawl and Hot Zone. As I said, he's just so good, especially when you've got a Poco behind him. Constantly giving him heals. It's so hard for the enemy. Even when they have a hard counter, Frank can still do a decent job because he does a lot of damage. He's got a really good super, and just overall really strong in this meta. Alright guys, jumping in at number 31, we have Cole, and although Cole in his core mechanics isn't the most OP with his damage and whatever else, he's really good with his gadget. His gadget just helps to reshape the map the way you really want it to be. Good examples of this are maps like Jordan Beetle and Split. You've seen him a lot of times using competitive just because of his gadget. It can really help those longer range brawlers thrive and break open the map just the way you want it. As I said, it just helps counter so many different tanks and whatever else. He's just a good versatile option right now. So coming in at number 30, we have Rosa, and Rosa has slowly worked her way down in the meta, even though she hasn't had anything changed to her. Ever since her gadget came out, she's just been so OP in the meta because you can just easily slow people and catch them off guard and get an easy kill. But as time has gone on, brawlers that Rosa counters has slowly gotten worse in the meta, so hence making her a little bit worse in the meta. Brawlers like Sandy and Mr. P have decreased in viability, so she has as well. But overall, I think she's just a solid option. You can often use in a lot of different modes if used correctly, and you can even use the other gadget as well, increasing her viability. Okay guys, so coming in at number 29, we have Sandy. A lot of people might be surprised by this ranking, but I think ever since they've changed the supercharge rate from 5 back to 6, Sandy has decreased in viability. I think Sandy's in a really balanced state right now. This is the Sandy that I actually enjoy playing against, because his super's not going to get any amount of control that he used to, because the 5 hits, he used to cycle supers so easily. That super could just gain control of the whole map. But as I said, well, right now he's just not in that competitive state. He's not in every single combination in the game right now, and I would rather have a different lane. But yeah, Sandy is fairly balanced right now. So next up at number 28, we have Nani. Nani's niche is definitely the bounty and the heist meta. She really excels in those those long range interactions, and especially with her peep, it can do so much damage one shot in so many different brawlers in the game. The only weakness to Nani is that her base attack is really easy to dodge, especially at the higher levels, so it can be high risk and high reward. So up next at number 27, we have Pam, and Pam is a really solid brawler overall. The other thing about Pam is that she's a really comp and map specific brawler. She can be really good paired with a lot of healer combinations, especially on game modes like Siege and Brawl. You see her quite dominant on, and Gem Grabber as well. She could be a really good brawler in that fact. But yeah, Pam's just solid overall. She can burst down at people quick, especially when she's got her super as well. And she's a really tanky option, so just balanced overall. So coming in at number 26, we have Jessie. Jessie's slowly been getting nerfs balance change after balance change, and this has slowly got her from one of the best brawlers in the meta to obviously in the middle of the meta. She's still a solid option. She's really good against those tanky brawlers, especially with her turret and her slow. But overall, we're just slowly seeing her decrease in the meta. So next up, coming in at number 25, we have Barley. So Barley has had his range nerfed back to what it was previously, but his damage is actually better than it once was before, and he still is pretty weak in this meta. So the main reason for this one is because there's so much Max and Carl in this meta, especially on game modes like Siege, where Barley was always really good on. Carl is just running the Siege meta and just counters Barley a little bit too much, making it a little bit messy, but it can still be usable on Siege, especially with how much damage he does with the extra nauseous star power. But overall, Barley's just fairly okay in most modes. So next up at number 24, we have Aegon, and I'm honestly surprised because he got a nerf to his movement speed in his plugged-in star power. I thought this would basically kill Aegon in the meta, but honestly, he's still a really good option on game modes like Gem Grab and Brawl, especially on the longer range maps. He's still a really good option, mainly because of his damage turret. It can really help him with really good synergies with the likes of Byron, with the likes of Sprout that can just sit in his turret and do so much damage. And to be honest, he still lasers. He's got really good range, really good damage. Aegon is still a strong brawler. So next up at number 23, we have Lou. Lou is so strong in game modes like Hot Zone and Siege, especially with his super. It's always been really good, but now with his damage buff, he secretly does a lot of damage, and he's a really underrated brawler in this meta. His super is just so good for zoning. You can cycle them really well, especially, as I said, in game modes like Hot Zone. You can basically control the entire zone in some Hot Zone maps, and overall just a strong brawler right now. So next up at number 22, we have Poco. So Poco saw a nerf with the last balance changes, which saw his super charge rate go from 4 hits back to 5 hits. And he's still a really strong brawler, especially because of his synergies with tanks. He's so good with tanks, and you even see him still. He can actually run Poco without a tank just because of how much healing he has with his gadget, with his star power. He's just a really solid option right now. You can basically use Poco everywhere, probably except for Siege and Heist. But yeah, he's a really strong brawler. So next up at number 21, we have Piper. Piper is insane on those longer range maps. The only trouble you're going to have with Piper are those really aggressive brawlers, especially with Max being really meta. It can be hard for Piper to actually survive in those type of engagements, but overall she's just really decent, especially as a gem carrier in Bounty on the longer range maps. On Brawl in the long range maps, she's still going to be pretty insane, and Heist as well. She's really found herself in that meta. So next up at number 20 is B, and I feel like that's just a constant trend with B when we're talking about the metas. So normally B is really strong when there's a lot of Poco and tanks in the meta, because she basically can 1v3 in some circumstances, and she's just a solid mid overall, no matter the circumstance. She's always good on Brawl. You always see her in that type of meta, especially on maps like Super Stadium, and she could just be solid overall, especially if you're expecting the other team to run a lot of those tankier options. Right now she's in a really balanced spot. So next up at number 19, we have Spike. And Spike has increased in viability mainly due to the fact that Sandy has got nerfed. Spike just used to get completely wrecked by Sandy and his super. So Spike, yeah, as I was saying, is a really good brawler right now. Is secretly creeping up in the meta. He's just really good on a lot of different game modes, like Brawl, like Gem Grab, especially with the curveball star power. He's starting to see him win a lot of lanes. It's not actually a lot of lanes in Brawl Stars right now that can actually beat Spike in a 1v1 if played correctly, if preserving his ammo. And as I said, I see Spike improving even more in the meta. So next up, coming in at number 18, we have Mortis. And Mortis finds himself in a weird place in the meta, because obviously if Mortis is played really, really well, he can basically play against every single comp and completely wreck. He's a hard carry brawler inside of Brawl Stars. But yeah, with Cole being so meta, Mortis is a really good counter, and you're honestly even seeing Mortis run in Siege right now just to counter the likes of Cole, and just overall he's in a good spot. So next up at number 17 is BB, and I feel like BB is in a really strong place in the meta right now. You can use either star power for her and she'll be just as good. So I'll probably use the speed star power in Siege. She's really good at collecting that first bolt. She's probably the third fastest bolt collector behind Cole and Mortis. She's just really good at countering the likes of Carl as well, and just overall she's using a lot of heal synergy combinations. She's the #1 tank to use when using like a Byron or a Poco. BB's always the first option that I see people pick, and just overall she's just so strong in this meta. So next up at number 16, we have Colette, and Colette found herself in a really good space in the meta right now. She's probably the #1 brawler in Heist. She's so good, especially if you use her shield style power. You're going to get a lot of damage on this save, constantly supering in over and over again, and it synergizes really well with the likes of Byron. Also, she's going to be increased in the viability in the meta because Cole is really meta right now, and Colette is an amazing counter to Cole. So whenever Cole is meta, Colette is going to be even better. But yeah, overall, Colette's in a really good spot. Right? So next up at number 15, we have Ems, and this is going to be a big surprise to a lot of people. But honestly, Ems is amazing in this meta, especially when paired with brawlers like Max. You can just get such insane synergy. But yeah, overall, Ems is just really good, especially with her super. She's got really good zoning. She's good on multiple modes right now. Best modes I can think of, game modes like Brawl and Gem Grab. She's going to be really good overall. And she's just got such a lot of pressure. And she's been secretly getting a lot of buffs. And I can even see her being a top 10 soon in the meta. So next up at number 14, we have Tick. And Tick is such an annoying brawler in this meta. He can just cover so much of the field with his attacks. He's just so spammy. He's got such a large range as well. He also has a really good defense against those aggro brawlers like the mortises. He has a really good gadget which can knock back people and also deal damage as well, which is so clutch in so many different situations. He also cycles his head really fast and can just be a really annoying brawler overall. Tick is super strong in this meta. So coming in at number 13 in the meta, it's going to be Ruffs. Ruffs is in a really strong spot right now because he can also counter a few of the meta brawlers in Surge and Stu with his sandbags. But overall, he's a really good team player brawler. By that, I mean, if you can get your upgrades to your teammates and those teammates stay alive for a long time, you're going to get such a lot of value. And in the long run, you're going to be winning those games, as said, as long as they stay alive. So you can also have 2-star power. Well, you can pick either star power with Ruffs. You can use the wall break one and break up the walls that you don't want. So like throwers like Barley and Sprout don't just destroy you. You can break open those walls and make it a lot easier to get them down. And then also on really defensive maps like Parallel Plays, like on GG Mortuary, you can use the heal star power and basically camp with your team, and you're going to get a lot of HP by the end of the game and just overwhelm the other team. So Ruffs is a really good team brawler if you can manage to play as a team and stay alive. So coming in at number 12, we have Tara, and I feel like people have been sleeping on Tara for such a long time now, especially since her new gadget came into the game. So the main reason why Tara is so good, again, is because of that gadget. That gadget is really, really strong, especially against those single firing brawlers. Brawlers I can think of, again, of the likes of Surge, the likes of Stu, the likes of Gina as well. It's just going to get you so much lane pressure. She's only really good on a game modes like Brawl Ball and Gem Grab, but in those game modes, she just completely dominates as well. She also counters Cole, who's really good in this meta as well. So Tara is really strong right now. So next up, coming in at number 11, we have Crow. Crow is seriously so OP in this meta, especially on the longer range maps. He just completely dominates with his slowing toxin gadget. He also provides a healing debuff to the enemy team, and also both star powers can be so viable. He's such a strong brawler in this meta. The only problem is that sometimes it can be a little bit too map specific. So it's not usable on every single map because he's quite a squishy brawler. But on those long range maps, I'm talking about Backyard Bowl, Kaboom Canyon, Bot Drop, all of those long range, he's going to be completely dominate. He's such a strong brawler right now. Okay guys, so now jumping into the top 10 brawlers. At number 10, we have Squeak. So Squeak, at first I thought he was going to be such an overrated brawler, but as time has gone on, I've learned how to play with him and learned how to play against him, and he can be really strong in some circumstances. His best game modes are going to be the likes of Heist, Siege, and Hot Zone. He's got so much zoning. His super is going to be insane on game modes like Heist and Siege because you can get so much damage on like the Ike, on the High Safe, on the Siege robot. He's going to do really good damage against those that aren't moving, obviously, but it just has insane zoning capabilities, especially against the meta brawlers like the Jeans and Max. If you can stick a few attacks on those, they can't stand near each other and just basically making the enemy teams forcing to split up. But yeah, Squeak, he's really good in this battle. Okay, so now moving into the 9th best brawler currently in Brawl Stars. You love to see it. Surge is back in the meta. So the main reason for why Surge is so strong is because he counters the meta brawlers. So the meta brawlers like this Stews and the Carls, you see Surge brought out so much in competitive just to counter those brawlers, but he's also a good counter to the long range brawlers once he gets his level 3. He's just a really versatile option overall because he can't push a Surge if he's got all of his ammo selected. He's also got a really good gadget which can basically pounce onto so many different enemies. He free shots so many different brawlers in the game. Surge is also just so good across every single game mode right now. He's just in an amazing spot in the meta. So now moving on to number 8, we have Byron. And Byron, even with all of his nerfs, he's going to be a top 10 brawler in the game. And again, it's just mainly due to his mechanics. It's just a really good versatile brawler. You can easily tap up your lane a few times and make them win their 1v1 interaction. You've also got obviously his long range. You can just tap people at a distance, tap your teammates at a distance. You've got his gadget that can heal you up to full HP. You've got his super, which can be really good against those aggro brawlers if having to be used in that circumstance. It's just overall, he's good in every single game mode right now. He's good in a lot of different synergies. He's just a strong brawler right now. So next up at number 7, we have Sprout. And as always, Sprout is a bit of a weird one because inside of ladder gameplay, he isn't really like the best brawler and can get countered a little bit too easily. But if Sprout's played against the right combination, he can completely dominate. So especially in Power League, if you're picking him at last pick, because as I said, he gets countered a little bit too much, he's going to be able to dominate. He's really good in game modes like Gem Grab and Siege right now. And just overall, he's just really toxic, especially with his super. He can zone off so much of the map, and if played correctly, he can win so many different interactions. Okay, so now at number 6 in the meta, it is Amber. Amber is so strong in this current meta, mainly because of her versatility. She's basically usable on every single map and mode right now, especially with the nerfs to Sandy. Sandy just used to counter Amber a little bit too much, but you've seen Amber used everywhere in competitive right now. The best thing about her as well, she's so easy to pick up. Basically, everyone can use Amber because it's a very auto-aim friendly brawler. You can auto-aim at every single distance and be really good. She's amazing in game modes like Siege and Hot Zone. Her super can just allow for so much zoning, especially if you're cycling them really good. It's going to block off so many different entry points to the enemy team, and Amber, she's just super toxic right now. Alright guys, so now moving into the top 5 brawlers in the meta. At number 5 we have Cole. So finally Cole has actually returned to the meta. It was a false alarm last time. I thought he was going to be really OP, especially with his buff, but now he's got his pickaxe speed back and he's absolutely insane. The best mode for him right now by far is Siege, because you can use his gadget to basically secure the first bolt. It's so strong. You see it in every single composition in Siege right now. And just overall, you really have to use Cole or use a counter to Cole. So that's why I see a lot of these brawlers in this tier list just revolve around how much they actually counter Cole, because they're going to get even better. Because if you don't use a counter to the Cole or use Cole, you're going to get absolutely wrecked, because he's so good. As I said, especially with his gadget, he can just launch himself on to really vulnerable brawlers like throwers and just completely destroy them. He's the sole reason why a lot of brawlers aren't meta right now. It's just so OP in this meta. So next up, as the 4th best brawler currently in Brawl Stars, is going to be my boy Gene. A lot of people were saying in my last video about how good Gene is. They were saying I was pretty biased, but if you talk to like every single pro player right now, they'd say how good Gene is. Gene is banned so much in competitive right now because of how versatile he is. He's used in so many different synergies, especially if paired with Max. As you guys probably know by now, he's so strong. So he can be used on every single game mode right now because of how good he is. He does a lot of damage, 1.5k a shot. He can free shot so many different brawlers in the game right now. But as I said, he just synergizes so well with so many different brawlers. You've been seen, you see him used in every single game mode right now because of how strong he is. The only weakness to him is that he takes 4 shots to actually get his super. But over time, Gene has slowly returned to the meta, and I love it because Gene, you guys know, my favorite brawler in the game, my best brawler in the game. He's just so strong right now. So next up, as the 3rd best brawler in the game, is going to be Max. Max is crazy strong right now, and it's all going to be thanks to her supercharged star power. This just makes her viable in every single game mode, every single map, every single comp. She's going to give so much life to so many different brawlers. She's been strong for a very long time now, and it's the main reason why you can't go certain compositions inside of competitive right now. That's why sometimes you might think, oh well, why have they not gone brawlers like Piper or like throwers or whatever else? But Max just enables you to counter so many different compositions, especially if Max isn't banned. You kind of just have to run Max because of how good she is. Her best modes are going to be Brubble and Gem Grab. She just synergizes so well with a lot of different brawlers, but mainly Gene. And Gene with a Max, when you get that max speed with a Gene pull, it's going to be too strong for the opposition. If them two are in play, you've just got to use those 2 brawlers. They're just so strong. But overall, Max is just an amazing hybrid brawler. So next up, as the 2nd best brawler in the game right now, I don't think there's any surprises here. It is Stu. Stu has been so strong ever since his release, and I'm kind of waiting for him to get a good nerf so he's no longer meta. Stu is one of the most frustrating brawlers to play currently inside of Brawl Stars, especially because of his knockback features. Especially if you're a brawler like BB or Cole, you're just going to get hard counters so easily by Cole because of how easy it is, especially to cycle those supers over and over again. It only takes 1 shot to charge his super, and he can just infinitely knock you back over and over again. Stu is just amazing on every single game mode right now. He does have a few hard counters, as I've said before, in the likes of Ruffs and the likes of Taurus Pets and whatever else. So you've seen those brawlers again become a little bit more viable in the meta just because of how strong Stu is. You need to kind of have either Stu or a counter to Stu in your competition because he just runs wild in those 1v1 interactions. So yeah, Stu, not much more to really say. Both star powers are really good as well. He's just so dominant everywhere right now. Alright guys, now moving it into the best brawler currently in Brawl Stars, I feel like by a long stretch as well, it's going to be Belle. And even with her recent nerf to her range, she's still got the same range as Piper and just offers so much more versatility and just better mechanics overall than the likes of Piper, than the likes of Brock. Her shots are just so much more easier to hit. Her shots can bounce literally infinitely. They can bounce forever, especially if you hit like a high save as well. If people are respawning, it's so hard to actually push back against a Belle, and she's got a quite fast reload speed for a sharpshooter as well. I feel like something needs to change in her mechanics because she's too strong right now. She's good everywhere. If you don't have a Belle in your composition, you're kind of screwed because of how good she is. And I don't really need to say much more. She's just so broken everywhere right now. Alright guys, it's going to be the end of today's video. Let me know what you think of my tier list in the comment section below. This was a little bit rushed. It took a lot of time still to make. But I felt like I could have gone a little bit more in depth in the meta. So let me know what kind of series you want to see in the future. What kind of guides you want to see as well. We're doing a Power League guide next week as well to give you guys the best compositions on all the Power League maps. And also, I just want to do a bunch of guides. So yeah, let me know down in the comment section below what you want to see in the future. But that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.